better pay, when there's things going south, when there's an argument with your employee, there's an argument with the owner, when there's everything going on, the culture is the glue that holds the company together.
Is that Danny Klein in the house? What up?
Come on.
Every time I see this
Hopefully
guy, oh yeah, man, you bring it. Always bringing the energy. We're just gonna start from
way better now,
bro. We're just gonna start from scratch, like you never had a problem from the beginning. And so I'm gonna make
there are no internet issues. No one knows anything. No one knows anything. This is the first time I'm ever meeting these guys. Never seen their faces ever.
So let's start. Yeah.
So have we relaunched yet, or do you want to relaunch the whole thing really quick?
Let's just keep going. Let's rock with this. This we're starting off. I've never seen you guys ever. So no internet issues were had, and Joe's going to start the intro. Boom, let's rock.
Welcome everybody to the Solar Pulse podcast with Josh and Joe, and we have a special themed episode. The Elliott Army is in town, baby. We got Danny Klein and Brendan Whiting of the Elliott Group in the house. What's up, boys?
What's going on, bro? The freaking SolarCon goats, the freaking absolute beast, dude. Solar Pulse.
And the innovators. The innovator, Joe Moose.
The pioneers. It's awesome to be on here, guys.
Hell yeah. That means a lot coming from you guys, so I really appreciate that. Danny, man, it's been amazing seeing you, your ride and your journey. You're killing it in social media now, and you're doing your thing. I know you're obviously working with Andy Elliot, but you have your own branding, your own story. But just real quick, before we get into it, can you just tell everybody your background story and how you actually, got into the Elliott Group, how you got into sales, and how you got into being a sales trainer?
Yeah, so Joe, I'm 25 now. I've been with Andy for almost 4 years. I got in the car business when I was 19. But prior to that, I was a college dropout, delivered Chinese food, right? Like my whole claim to fame is, from being a Chinese delivery driver to helping kill it with Andy Elliot. But I got into the car business. How I actually got in is I was delivering Chinese food, and I kind of reconnected with one of my buddies from high school. I used to be the captain of the wrestling team, and one of these kids that was on JV saw me at the gym.
Hell yeah, I was captain of the wrestling team too. I knew we had that in common, bro. I could see my boy, my wrestler.
I'm reconnecting with him. He's like, yo, how you been? What's going on? I'm getting my pump on, and I'm like embarrassed to fucking see anybody. And so I find him, and he's like, yo, man, I've been killing it. I've been selling cars. It's been pretty good. And I'm delivering Chinese food, so I'm like, what's pretty good? And he's like, well, last month I made 15 grand. And so I'm like, you made 15 grand last month. He's younger than me. He was on JV, and the kid was not like a communicator. He was kind of like a geeky kind of kid, right? And so I'm like, kid, I'm like, fucking, what the fuck? Like, how is this guy making 15 grand and I'm delivering Chinese food? I feel embarrassed. And so it was like Wolf of Wall Street, like the moment where he's like, hey, you show me a check for $15,000. I'll quit my job right now and work for you. I'm like, bro, I got to figure it out. Like, I'm not in high school anymore. I'm jumping from job to job. I'm sitting there blowing tree, drinking, partying. Like, there was just no fulfillment. I wanted to figure it out, but I just got lost in that mix. And then next thing you know, his dad was a GM. Gets me a job the next week selling cars. I quit delivering Chinese food, tell him I love him. Straight up Chinese family restaurant, right?
Yeah.
And so they paid me my last check in cash. They just give me cash. And I leave. And then I get into selling cars. And I thought I was going to make that money right out of the gate selling cars because I'm seeing this guy, super geeky. I'm the guy that's cracking jokes, having fun. I can talk with people. So I'm like, well, I can probably figure this out. And it's not what happened. I probably went 4 or 5 months making $3-4 grand a month. I got a $200 commission check. And I was like, yeah. They were like, yeah, pretty much if this doesn't change, you're going to get fired. I got a $200 commission check after my draw. And so everyone sees where we're at now, but they don't understand that there was a time and a place my first 6 months in sales that I was not the best. I was the bottom of the fucking board, and I was, going to get fired. And so I looked up how to sell cars, found Andy Elliot, and completely 360 my life. Ended up paying for some mentorship and for some training. Ended up going out to go and go to an event. Came back that next month, and I was starting to sell 20 cars a month, just like that. I kind of recreated my belief. Outside of just the sales training, I think I just learned to just decide to become somebody different. I had to kill off that old version of me in one moment. And then I was making, 15, 20 grand a month, 20 years old, and just started to change my life, man. I'm living at my mom's house and making my first 100 grand. And, I told her, and then we just started making the jump. A few months later, just to kind of fast forward through the story, a few months later, my dad passed away. He actually drowns in a pool, had some health complications, and drowns in a pool. I tell Andy, and he's like, hey, man, you've always been a student. I'm moving from Oklahoma to Phoenix. I'd love to have you come work with me. And I was just like, fuck it. Once again, I had another decision to make to just, these pivotal moments in my career. I'm just like, fuck it. I'm just a kid. I just turned 21, and I'm like, I'm in, So I didn't know what I was going to be getting paid. I didn't really know where the direction of the Elliott Group was going to be going, but I know that it had changed my life in a short amount of time. I've seen this guy grow. He's what I call an undeniable character, an undeniable figure. He does what he says he's going to do. And then been with him ever since, man. Just been growing for the last 3.5 years, helping build the team, building the brand, and just trying to become a better version of myself every single day, man.
So Andy took you under his wing, and then I see Brendan over here, and I believe you took him under your wing because he was telling me he actually lived at your house 2 years ago. So Brendan, tell us a little of your background story, how that actually happened, bro.
Yeah, bro. Appreciate it. Same thing as Danny. I mean, I grew up in Illinois, and I played sports my whole life. I played basketball. And I actually went to college. And I played.
You're not a wrestler, though, huh?
Dude, wrestlers were like my worst nightmare.
I played ball. That's fine.
See, there we go.
Maybe wrestling out of here, man.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. So I played, and I went to college, and I played Division II basketball. And, dude, I got into college, and, my coach, he wanted me to be super committed. He was like, no drinking, no partying, 4 practices a day. And I just saw an uphill battle. And I also thought, like, I always wanted to be in business. So I just dropped out, bro. And I didn't know where I was going to go. I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but because I didn't have anything to focus on, I got sucked into just being a loser. Like, I just started partying, and I just went down that path. 2 years, I'm just working 9 to 5s, just broke as shit. And then same thing as Danny. I'm at a bar one night. I meet a guy who runs a car dealership. And he's like, hey, what do you make last month? I'm like, $3,000. He's like, I'll pay you $4,000 a month on a salary. You can start tomorrow. I'm like, fuck it. So I was working 60 hours a week, collecting that paycheck. But after 6 months, they took me off the salary and they put me on commission. My first month, I got a check slightly bigger than Danny's. like I got one like $800 probably total. And I was like, this sucks, dude. And honestly, dude, once I realized, like, once I got that check, I was like, I'm worth way more than this. And honestly, it was the worst feeling ever, but it was actually the most empowering because I was like, you know what? I created this from being a lazy guy, not doing the work, not being skilled. I can fix this myself. It's like a rock bottom moment. And then I went on YouTube, found Andy, and immediately, I mean, in the next 6 months, I was making like 25 grand a month. I was buying every seminar, every private coaching thing from Danny. That's right around the time they just moved over to Arizona. And then after 2 years of going down that path, Andy pulled me outside at a seminar and was like, hey, you'd be a good fit to work here. Like, you're an underdog. You have a good testimony. And dude, I packed up and I moved out here so fast. I couldn't even find a place to live. So that's when I was with Danny for the month. I was looking for houses to move into,
Dude, we called it the closer house.
Yeah.
So when I first started making money with Andy, I rented this mini mansion in Fountain Hills, which is a little city outside of Scottsdale. It's like a 5-bedroom, just super nice pad, right, for being like 22. And people would come in that were working for us because it took some time to get up to speed making money. So we called it the closer house. We would just bring them in. We would be training. We'd be shooting content. And it was just this greatness. It was almost like this little fraternity house, but for self-development and just greatness. There was no drinking. There was no anything. It was just train, work out, train, sell. And that's what we call it the closer house.
Yeah, you guys have such an amazing system that you guys bring in people, you transform them, and then they all become, the like better, more leveled up because of each other. It's amazing to see. But speaking of sales experts, we have Josh King here. Have you guys ever met him before? But this guy's a virtual sales expert. Over 500 hours of training online. Like this guy is legit. He's actually the founder of Virtual Solar Club and Cenevo. But I think he wanted to ask you guys a question.
Love it.
On, guys. Oh, we got lots of questions. These guys are obviously in the sales. I love the vibe of. I do a very similar thing. If we find someone that comes through our doors and we're training them up and they're absolutely killer, like that's the type of person I want on my team. And it's like a symbiotic relationship. Like it's like I'm going to train you to be a killer, but then I also want you to come and work for me, right? And that's it's so cool. It's like a trickle down effect. So I've always been a fan of doing that. And also, it's a testament as well to the training, because if someone's like looking at, for example, some programs that you guys have, and the sales guy is crushing it, he's like, "Fuck, this guy's good," then it's a testament to the actual training. So it's worthwhile. The worst thing
100%.
is when I hate it when guys say they have amazing training, amazing sales programs, amazing software, and I get on with the sales guy or the dev, and they're shit at software or they're shit at sales. I'm like, dude. Why am I going to get something from you if your sales guys are absolute dog shit? Right. So I love that type of method. Really cool stuff.
Dude, I love that. I love that what you just said though. It's a testament. People's team is a testament. If they're in the sales training space, their team, their people, the people that they train, right, are a direct reflection of the trainer. And you can't. I don't personally believe that you can be a top tier sales trainer without a sales team. I just don't think that's you. You lack either. Maybe you're good at sales training, but you lack one of the most important things, which is leadership. And you're teaching other people how to go and teach others. The skill of leadership and sales is what's so important, especially in this industry, in this space. It has to be taught, man. And there's so many people that go out and this coaching online space is so lucrative that you can go out, have a couple cool posts and be good. But a direct reflection is when you communicate with somebody, if somebody's sharp or if they're dull, and it makes the big of the difference. I just love that you said that.
Sure. You guys both came from car sales. That was obviously in person, I'm assuming. Do you guys are you in the virtual sales world now, or are you still sticking to in person? Obviously, I see you guys on social media, so that's, virtual, but does that extend further than that? Are you guys on phones, Zooms, doing sales, or are you trying to do a lot of in-person stuff still?
I'd say a little bit of both. Like, we try to do in-person meetings as much as possible, but you can obviously make way more contacts when you're over the phone. So, I would say, what would you say, 90% phones, 10% in person?
Yeah, most of our stuff is virtual. Like, we had a guy that we met in the gym that came up in here who wanted to do some stuff with us earlier today. But most of our stuff is virtual. It's leads that come through. It's appointments set. It's Zoom calls, phone calls. Every now and then, you'll have events and different things where people will come up in person. And that's a great opportunity for us to sell there. But I would say 90% of what we do is mostly virtual. It's just the nature of what we do. It's a little more scalable and you reach a lot more people. But we do love the in-person. That's why we try to have events as much as possible. Because, we're in-person people,
Yeah.
So you're talking about the actual sales training is virtual and the conferences are in person, obviously, but the actual sell, are you selling for car, are you in car sales anymore, or are you just selling at all? Or is this just, Andy Elliott's training, or you're selling your training? Is that what you're focusing on right now?
That's a great question. So it's 100% Elliott. So coaching, sales training, whether that be automotive, different businesses, whether that be door-to-door companies, just wanting to level up the culture of their team. It's all virtual.
So
I found, do you guys find, because you come from cars, I always knew, and I was taught this as well, like the traditional sales, if you bring them into a high ticket commission role, they'll kill it. And the industries were car sales and personal trainers as well, because there's a lot of grinding in the personal trainers to get more clients. and those traditional roles, which are generally capped commissions, but they're like hungry. They don't really specifically have hourly wages, or maybe there's a commission factor, but they've never been given like a high ticket, high commission aspect to it. I've always found the guys, they've never been given an opportunity. So you bring them into something that's, ridiculous high commissions, and all they need to do is work their ass off, and they just take off. Did you guys find the same thing? Like, what industries are you finding right now where people are in mortgages or insurance, and they step into something that's actually crazy? They just go nuts.
Oh, are you saying what are the best? Like, what are like the killers? What industry are the killers found
killers
in?
Yeah, car sales is certainly one of them. I've heard a million guys come from car sales. Like my stepfather was a used car sales guy, so the sales guy to the moon, right?
So I'll answer, and then you'll have your answer. So I agree with car sales, but one thing I found, man, I don't know what it is about like automotive that shifted, because it used to be this grind, like grit culture, and you would grind your ass off, and now it just seems like it's not as abundant. It's very sit and take what I get, the walk-ins, the calls, and I think the culture has shifted from being like hunter to where people like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the car business was very like, hey, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna call people, I'm gonna network. That sales mindset was really there, and not to say it's completely gone in a lot of stores, but a lot of the places that I've seen it's not as abundant. They're just trying to get their guys to just do the bare minimum, and it's unfortunate. But I wouldn't say that the car industry is necessarily where all of the killers are at. I've seen. I mean, dude, it depends. Insurance, if you can make it in insurance, you got thick skin. But door to door is hot right now, man. I think all spaces in door to door. I think just because like the pure nature of it is nothing is given to you, man. I'm not just saying that just because you guys come from door to door, but from what I've seen, dude, like there's nothing given to you. Like we have leads that come in, right? Like if I got stripped from my leads, I got to go out and I got to go and create. You got to go and hunt. And if you don't keep that mentality of like hunting, like people get lazy, bro, and it's just crazy. So I would say like any industry where you have to go out and you have to hunt, you have to go and make stuff happen, is where the killers are generally found, just because they're the ones that make it happen. So I've seen a lot of people recently just from any of the door-to-door industries. I specifically like, I don't know why, but like some of the door-to-door places that maybe something like pest control or like these weird odd end like sales spaces like meat or phone sales, like these lower things that don't pay as much as like maybe solar or something. You give them into a space where they can make a ton of money and they're used to the grind and the hunt. That's where I really see people take off, where they're very grateful for the money. You see a guy that's going from the crazy market of making a ton of money in door to door in an easy market, and you put him in a different space. It's almost like he was given all this opportunity. He's not used to having to earn every single deal, and understand that, like, the money that comes from some of these spaces right now, it comes in waves, So I would tell you, door to door has been great.
I would say that it just depends on the individual, right? Like you said, you heard Danny's story earlier about the cat he met when he first started selling cars, and he was in a rough environment. That's kind of like the store I was at. Like that same manager that hired me at the bar actually ended up showing up to work every day hungover. He was an asshole to work for. Everybody in the store sucked, but I wanted it so bad that like there was nothing that was going to stop me from making it. So it was like a boot camp for me. They gave me a strong mindset, because I was selling, and I was selling more than everybody else while being shit talked by the entire store. So it's kind of the same thing, right? Like some guys get in that environment, they deflate, and they accept the standard of everyone around them of, hey, let's just kick back. Let's sell the lot ups. Let's be average. And then some people accelerate. And same thing he said, like, I believe door-to-door guys are killers, bro. Like I did door-to-door, and it's a tough industry, dude. Like you have to have really thick skin. So, but the main thing is just understanding, having the intuition to know when something's good, you got to take advantage of it, right? Like door-to-door solar is on fire. If I sold solar right now, just like if like I work for Andy and our company's on fire, we're in a spring season, I'm going to give it all I got. I'm going to work 24 hours a day if I have to, It's just knowing when's the right time to apply effort when you're in a spring season,
Speaking of solar, like how you're in different genres, because you're in general sales training, right? how do you learn the different nuances to all these different industries, or do you have to? Do you have people you bring in to train different nuances of all these different industries? Because to me, that's hard, right? Because you could know sales, but you're not going to know those different details of each industry, right?
Yeah, I love this question. So like this is I think a lot of people like misunderstand like the Elliott group or think that, like we come into different spaces and we try to position ourselves as the industry experts specifically for that field when we just position ourselves as the experts of sales with people, not with the products. And we'll own that fact that we're not going to know as much about every single industry because it's impossible. And there's different specialty people that are going to know more about different things. But if I can understand like the psychology behind why someone says no, why they stall, what are the motives, what are they generally, what are the top objections that they generally go to when they don't say yes, what is the actual buying product, what does that product solve, right? Whether it's them buying a car, them getting into solar, like what is the main buying point? Is it them saving money? Is it going green? Understanding those points and just learning how to sell around those. But I would just say the biggest thing for us is just really focusing on the people. But the cool thing, what I've done is I love to learn. So what I would do is I would go and befriend all these people that are experts and killers in the top spaces. And I'll say, hey, listen, I don't really know your industry. I don't know your space. I don't know all the details. I want you to teach me all the ins and outs so I can better understand it, so I can better teach it, because there's certain things that I do have to know to be able to navigate around it. I need to know about the process. How does the model work? And then I just put myself in their shoes to understand everything I can about it. So when I go to teach about it, I'm not just going off of hypotheticals. And then a lot of these guys, I've actually gone out and done different deals in different spaces. I've attempted to sell insurance. I've gone out for a couple of days to sell life insurance. I've gone out and knocked doors on the field to see how these things work, because I want to try them. Now, I'm not going to send my whole career off to the side to go and learn all these different industries, but I want to know what it's like. And so a lot of times I'll take time to really to learn what some of these other spaces are like, being on the phones or on the doors to learn that.
I agree with you. Like in solar, like in a really easy example, I'm always telling people, homeowners are not going solar because they want solar panels on the roof and they like how it looks. They're going because they have a problem, and solar is just the thing that solves it right now. I have my potato. My analogy is, if I duct tape a potato to someone's roof right now and it could save them 50 grand over the next decade or two, I'd be a fucking potato salesman. But I'm not. I'm a solar salesman because that's just the thing that does it right now. I agree with you 100%. And I also think it's important to segment that salespeople sell and engineers engineer. And I think generally that's a software solution that a salesperson can sell as long as their systems around them don't allow them to fuck over the customer. And if you're able to give a really hardcore sales guy an amazing product and a system that doesn't enable them to screw the customer over, you have a winning system there. The best sales guys I've ever met in my life in every industry don't really know much about the product, but the system enabled them to use the skills.
The words out of my mouth, bro. You stole the words out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Dude, I think it's crazy, and I want to actually talk about this for a second if you guys are down. I always try to figure out, like, why is that? Why is that the more that people learn about the space, about the industry, they get more knowledgeable. It's like they try to become smart, and what I believe it is I believe it's the human's lazy brain trying to find a smarter way to do it, and they avoid doing the hard work, which is going back just to straight selling. I don't know what it is, because the very beginning, it's like, hey, you get out what you put in. There's no way out. There's no escaping. Yeah. It's Alcatraz. Like, everyone's going to see what you perform. But, like, I want to ask you guys this question. Why do you think it is, like, there's someone that's been in for 3 years, they've seen the chargeback, they've had deals fall back on them, and they lose that belief? It's like, it's all these different factors that prevent people from being, like, a top performer. Because I've seen it happen over and over again, where somebody comes in and they're fired up, and then they learn everything about everything, and they start to peel back.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious, and this it boils down to one fundamental principle that we're always taught that people forget very, very soon.
Kiss.
Yeah.
So I see this on a micro level, right? When you're taught to keep it stupid simple on a fundamental level, I'll see this. I call it the sales plateau. Generally, sales guys will hit this within a few weeks, if not a month or two. they will skyrocket because they don't know enough to overcomplicate things. So the only thing, like you just said, the only thing they have is to rely on their ability to be confident in their pitches, to build rapport, to be assumptive in their sales. Like that's all they know, because the technicalities of their product is difficult to learn. But what happens is they hear this cool little fact. Oh, this does this over here, or the product over here, or it's the only one in the market that does this. And then, one or two is fine, but then it just starts going into their pitch, into their pitch, into their pitch. And then within a month or two, their pitch is now a technical breakdown of their product, and their customer is sitting there thinking, I don't give a fuck. How does it benefit me? And then the sales rep gets confused. And then my suggestion is go listen to a call recording, or something you did when you were first crushing it. What's the difference? It's like, oh shit, well, I sounded, I didn't give any details there. I was just selling. It's like, perfect. Keep doing that.
Yeah.
That's, I definitely see 100%. It's complications, right? And a misunderstanding of why people actually.
Totally agree. I'll relate that to like in car sales, when you're new and you've never sold a car before, it's like the beginner's luck where you go out and you close everybody because you don't overqualify people, right? Like you'll go talk to anybody. It doesn't matter what car they drive up on the lot, what they're wearing that day, if they're clean shaven or if they got a big beard. It's like, but after a while you learn how to qualify. You go like a guy pulls up on lot, you're like, that guy's got bad credit. Somebody else can talk to him. Sure enough, he's a cash buyer with like $80,000 for a new truck, and you're like, "Well, fuck, bro." You started trying to find the easy way out.
It's so dangerous for especially new sales reps that they start seeing patterns that they think are real, but they're complete bullshit, and they're just based off not enough data. And then they get really lazy because they're like, "Oh, this guy's not going to close, man. I just don't want to do it," and they don't give 110%. And they don't close the deal. Dude, I still make incorrect assumptions. Like it's really difficult to know on the front end. And so, yeah, I 100% agree with that. They what'd you say? Overqualified. That's a good.
Yeah, dude, what you said, Kiss. One of my first mentors when I first started selling, he always used to tell me that keep it simple, stupid. He would reverse it. He would say keep it simple, stupid, meaning because he would try to fuck with me. And because I was always that person. I'm always trying to find a better way. And it's good for you to stay creative, but you have to be super hyper self-aware to understand that the human brain is always going to try to find a lazier, easier way to do absolutely everything. And sales, that's not how this game works.
Yeah.
No, 100%. Speaking of different sales genres, what would you guys be doing right now if you were like, all right, forget the sales training. I want to get back in the grind. I want to start selling something. I know you guys have the car sales background, but let's say you didn't do car sales. What would you guys be jumping in right now? Saying, I'm selling this because I can make real good money, in this industry.
Do I have
help
to
a lot
work,
of people?
whatever it is. Working for somebody else in the industry, or do I get to start my own space?
Start your own space, baby. Whatever you think.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what you do?
I do probably.
Oh, I know what you would do.
What?
I'm not gonna answer for you.
I do probably high ticket closing or solar virtually, or
Let's
even
go.
I love selling over the phone, bro. I just love it. It's fun. It's fun stuff.
Dude, this is good. I'm kind of stumped. Part of me would want to go out and just crush it and door to door. But another part of me would want to just reset absolutely nothing and just start my own business.
Yeah.
What I don't know exactly even what it would be. Man, I love this question. I'd probably go into solar too, honestly.
What would you do, Joe?
Yeah.
What would you do?
What?
I like teams. I'm really good. I feel like I could do good with teams and selling.
We are literally in the beginning of a solar boom still right now. There is no better industry, in my opinion, where you can make the most money, feel the best, help their environment, help the companies, help everybody's families, and go against the utility, which nobody really is a big fan of. And it's there's no losers in this situation. To me, it's a no-brainer. I'm figuring it out, and we're going all in on solar, baby.
Well, if I change my mind, I'll come sell solar with you.
This is not a recruiting platform here. I'm not trying to recruit anybody.
Dude, I think it's crazy, like how big solar is right now, bro. I always tell everybody that like goes in to get into solar. I'm like, dude, the fact that people can go in and they make a couple $100,000 or they get to making a little bit more than what they used to make, and they get comfortable. And I always tell people like, bro, if I was in solar, and part of me, like, I'm so competitive, wants to go out in the field for a month and just rip just to see what I'm made of, just because. Like, bro, I feel like I'd make $3 million on the front lines. Like, if I was just selling, I feel like I'd make $3 million a year, right? But I'll never know. But I'm just like, dude, you cannot take this opportunity for granted, because who knows what's gonna happen in 10 years from now. Like, the opportunity is just crazy.
100%. I'll add one thing. So, what's really cool about we have millions of people reaching out to our team, so we get like a 10,000 foot view of opportunity level versus like skill level. So, like, for example, car sales. You'll talk to a guy who's super sharp on the phone, but he's only making 200 grand a year. Then you'll talk to a guy who can't speak that well in solar that's making 150 or 200 or more. And you're like, dude, that really is a good opportunity, man. Like, imagine what you could make if you were deadly, if you were a great speaker. It's crazy. So it just seems like the opportunity level in solar is very, very, very high, like higher than we've seen for most industries out there. So
it's exciting for sure. You guys were talking about the sales house thing. I love that idea, but I take it to the extreme. So we're one of the final to-dos on our roadmap right now is what we call solar stations. So we apply that sales house idea that you have, but we input solar and virtual to it. I'm a nomad. I live all over the world at any point in time. I'm in Colombia 2 weeks and then the Caribbean for a bit, selling virtually. Solar stations, this idea is to get that sales house vibe that you guys felt, that I know you felt, the power of getting guys together and just like super positive environment. You got a schedule, you stick to it, you stay productive. You factor in the awesome potential behind solar, you put virtual in it, and then you get a bunch of guys who live in a villa on a Caribbean beach and just sell solar in the Caribbean or in Southeast Asia. I did that for a while, and so that really amps me up. And so when I hear other people have that same experience, like that sales house vibe, not a lot of people have experienced that, but that is really unique. Like, Joe, remember like the solar villa vibe that we have at that event? Like the vibe is immaculate. It's so good when you get everyone.
That would be like the power of a team too. Like right now we're doing some remodel here at the office.
I love
so this. Last Friday, we had the entire sales team.
We got it today too.
Yeah, and today
that's why we're like jumping around trying to find a spot.
Yeah, that's why we can't find a spot, because there's freaking 80 people on the floor here. But like everybody moved back, and for so long we've had a lot of space, so everybody's kind of spread out.
So we have this whole upper deck, and everybody has their own sales offices, the glass enclosures, door, and everything. They got their own space for our top guys, and then everyone else's. We call it the marshmallow, and it's basically just a giant boiler room, stand-up desks. And so for the last couple of days, everyone has been back out in the boiler room for everything. And so they're just getting thrown in the fire. The new guys are hearing me on the phones. I'm hearing the new guys on the phones. And I'm like, dude, and what I said to Ian, I said, dude, we needed to do this mandatory every single week.
100%.
I feel closer. I'm getting even more done because of the energy and the environment of you know what I mean?
It's like a damn circuit over here. Crazy.
The new guys hear the experienced guys, but also the experienced guys feel the spotlights on them, so they gotta fucking stiffen their back and do shit properly. Yeah. I love that vibe, man. It's great. You should do that like a few hours a week, a mandatory, to call it the boiler room, right? And you got to go for a specific time. Everyone crams into one room.
Yep,
that'd be absolutely sick.
Well, we have a couple of the.
Joe, did you ever?
Go ahead.
I was going to say, did you ever work in that type of environment? I don't remember you ever saying
myself.
Like that.
No, not really in that kind of. Maybe for a week because I was trying all kind of sales jobs, but didn't fall in love with the telemarketing environment. I did definitely a lot of door to door. I did car sales, employee of the month, back in the day, insurance. Definitely. I had actually had a decade of sales experience, and being one of the top sales people in each place I worked at, before I even got into solar. So I feel like I have some kind of, same kind of thing with you guys, where it's like it's a sales what's important, and it doesn't matter what industry, as long as you use those sales and communicating skills at the high level.
Yeah.
It's strange because with in-person stuff, when you're individually in homes, you don't often get to experience that boiler room environment. But Joe, you remember at Solar Villa. So guys, we do an event called Solar Villa everywhere. We fly a bunch of people into a villa, but this is for like a short period of time. But Joe, remember this year, and everyone was at the desk and everyone was making calls, and like the buzz was happening and people were going up, putting appointments on the board. That's what we're talking about. That type of vibe. It's just like gets the blood
so
going
great.
like nothing.
Yeah.
You definitely have
and
that.
I think
in
it's
car
probably
sales.
like we all have that sports background. So I think we all know what it feels like to be a part of a team. And it's like when your soul feels that, you're like, that's where you thrive at. You know, that's where we all play our best game when we're in that environment.
It's accountability. No one wants to flop the call right there in front of everybody, so you're going to go the extra distance. Versus if you're by yourself, you kind of get to cut the corner if you'd like, versus like you don't really get to, you're going to get called out.
It can go a bit too far. My first sales job technically was a boiler room in Australia, and it was run by they're called bikies in Australia, just like gang members. So it was complete Wolf of Wall Street debauchery, and they forced you to do things that you don't mention, and so that it can get toxic as fuck, and that decreases your productivity for sure. But if you're in that nice environment that everyone's staying positive, but it's still pedal to the metal, it's great. It's great all around.
Yeah, that Wolf of Wall Street environment you worked in was like the car dealership that I worked at. Same kind of deal, debauchery.
I think it's interesting being a part of that because, like, you see what like extreme hardcore side of the spectrum looks like, and the interesting thing about solar is. So again, I came from that background, and we were selling stuff that we shouldn't be selling, right? And thankfully, I was never one of the big sales guys there. I didn't do that much damage. I was like an appointment setter almost. But the cool thing about solar is that me and people that came from industries like that found solar and were like, holy shit, we can apply these hardcore sales strategies. But as long as we actually utilize our systems properly for our customer, it's actually benefiting them. Like, no question, And so you can sleep at night. It's a very cool convergence of industries there.
But you still have to be a good
something.
person, though. That's not anybody can, because that's me. That's the way I think. That's the way we think about using our sales skills in a good way. But there's actually bad salespeople out there too, or con artists who are not trying to help the homeowner or help the industry or help the environment. They don't give a shit about any of that. All they care about is, how do I get as much money in my pocket on this sale as possible? And that's not the way, you sell. So there is a way of being a good salesperson or using it in evil ways, right?
I got a question for you guys. Go ahead, Josh. You want to?
I was just going to add one comment. I'm like, I don't even see those as evil. In when you say bad, I see them as just like lower skilled, and they can't think past the next few months.
True.
Because name one person that has been that evil but has actually stood the test of time and built a successful business. It's you can just rinse your customers all day, all night long, but that's eventually going to catch up with you. Whether it's 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 10 years, it's going to eventually happen. And generally, it's a few months. So I almost see it as just lack of foresight.
That's probably going to tie right back into my question of what I was going to ask, because what I'm seeing, because I'm kind of like, I'm like in y'all space, but like I'm not. And so like I just get to see everything. So like, what do you think, like, why is it that you see so many of these sales organizations and these solar companies that try to come in, that they come up and they're just everybody, I feel like everywhere I look, everyone I talk to, shit's just crashing and burning. Like, what is the underlying factor that you're seeing? Is it the people that started? Is it because I hear, it's the recruiting, it's the installers, it's this, it's like 10 different things. I'm like, no, there's got to be something consistent that's happening that's pretty basic. And it kind of goes back to it. Maybe it's a long-term thinking. Maybe they're not skilled enough. Like, why is it that why is everything burning down right now?
From my experience, a bit of background, I built a national EPC in Australia. An EPC is a term that's like sales team, installers, admin, it's a vertically integrated company. you're nationally selling in every state for a few years, millions and millions in revenue. What I found, and Australia isn't as lucrative as the US, but from my experience, our major down, we were close as shit to bankruptcy. We eventually got out. But the major one was solar is such good money that all you need is a few deals to get you above water. And so therefore you get addicted to spending crazy amounts and scaling up because you think you have a massive cushion. There's a million other reasons why people would say this, but that was from us. So for example, when we were running ads for leads, my cost per lead would go up and up and up and up. But I'm like, dude, I'm making so much money. I don't give a shit. I could spend as much as I want on leads. But then your sales start to dip, as they naturally do sometimes. And that higher cost per lead and higher cost of operations comes and bites you in the back. So the margin on solar, the ability to make that much money is actually potentially a negative if you don't know how to run your numbers properly. That's what I found.
Yeah, that all goes back to your habits. Like, you know, we always talk about, if you're not skilled, you'll have undependable success. So like anybody can have one good month. Like you make the shot once, so what? But you do it second time, third time, fourth time. So first you got to have skill, but also like that brings up a good point, because one thing I see is a lot of solar guys, they don't manage their money properly, and salespeople in general. Dude, that's a great way to fuck up your head when you're trying to have you know, some big sales numbers. You know, it's spending your money the wrong way. You know,
my national sales manager, Luke, shout out Luke Lawson, back in the day, he realized all his sales guys were putting their paychecks up their nose and spending it on stupid shit. So he would make it a requirement. I guess legally, you know, can't require anybody to do anything, but he would make it a requirement that they had to like go into his like course of how to manage their fucking commissions, because he found the best sales guys, they were crushing it, but then they'd blow all their cash, and because of that, their results were dropped because they get depressed. So he was looking at himself and like, because these guys are not managing their money. So he would force them to go through his like course of how to manage their money to be a part of his team. So 100%, that's true. Sales.
I love that.
I would also say it's that some people have sales skills, and that's what they're good at, and they take that experience, so they become a closer. They'll start selling deals, and they start recruiting, start building a team, and then they're like, oh, I built a team, now I can start being a dealership. Oh, I'm a dealer now I could become an EPC, and then they just keep evolving. But it doesn't mean that they can make it at every single level. Some people have a knack at sales and recruiting, and that's it. And they try to get into the business, and it's like you have to keep track of everything, your analytics and your finances, and looking into the future and having everything, you know, insurance, and like there's so many things you have to do and go into business to make sure you're in business going into the future. If not, you're just a glorified salesperson that's just having other people along for the ride. And I think that could be just a major thing. Just not enough business savvy to go along with amazing sales skills.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, maybe some people like should accept that they want to be an entrepreneur, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Solar gives you the opportunity. Solar sales and the commissions that they're paying could give any American in the United States the ability to retire in probably like 3 years or 5 years max, if you manage your money properly. You know, so like you don't got to be the head guy. You know.
Yeah, and you don't have to know anything about solar to make money in solar on day one. As long as you're good at hustling and communicating, you can learn the words to say to make an appointment. And making an appointment with the homeowner is worth a lot of money on its own merit. And then as you grow on knowledge and skills and abilities, then you can go cross over to becoming a full self-generating closer. But you don't need to know anything to start day one and start selling and start making money. That to me is a beautiful thing for any person, not just in sales, but any background, because we're going in a time where robots are coming in, like literally robots are going to start taking over jobs at McDonald's, at Ross, at these places where those people need to find a job. They need to work somewhere, and they can use the skills in the way of just your mouth and making a phone call. This stuff is going to be needed as we go into the future, and solar and virtual itself is actually a great path to get there, in my opinion.
You know what I think is crazy too? Like, just another point, like you said, entrepreneur. I think that most people think from the outside that haven't been top ultra performers, top 1%, top 5%, whatever in the industry, that they don't realize that the top salespeople generally, right, in most cases, they make more profit, more take home green cash
Yeah.
a lot of times than the owner does. And they think, oh,
Yes.
you're making all this fucking money. It's like they don't realize that there's other costs involved with running the business. And running a business is not generally to make all the profit, but to grow. It's a long-term play. There's other things in place. And I think that most people think that, oh, I'm going to start my own sales organization because I want to make more money. And a lot of times you can make more by going and working for somebody else, being an entrepreneur, being the best at that, and then taking that money and reinvesting it in other ways, like managing your money and getting into real estate, and taking that money and just moving it smartly. Because people forget to realize that, like, the dream used to be for all of us to make six figures, right? We're like, I'm going to make my six figures when I graduate high school and get out of college. I'm going to make six figures. I'm going to be successful. And then we get in and we're making $500,000. We're making $1 million. We forget that that's a lot of money, and you can learn to leverage that the right way and become a multimillionaire if you just manage that properly, instead of getting in and thinking that the only way is to start your own company and your own business.
Exactly.
I mean, many sales guys don't believe this, but salespeople in solar and many industries, but solar specifically, make by far, unless they're just selling at peanut pricing, which they shouldn't be doing anyway, they're selling at good pricing. They make by far more than any single entity in that entire sale, right? So it's a good point. If sales guys then go to dealer and then build EPC, they got to get used to less margin, not more, and they need to be in it in the game to build a business. Like, I love business. I'm not super motivated by money, really. I never have been. I love building things. I love business. I like putting systems together, and that's what I like. I just happen to be good at sales. So if you're a sales guy and your goal is money, then you move into the business and system things, which need 150% of your attention. Could be a massive factor. But because solar is so lucrative, they do get that run of a few months or a few years, and then it tanks because they realize they're in the wrong spot.
If you don't have the wisdom, it can hurt your identity a lot. Like it's like, we talk about all the time, like your self-identity, your self-image. Like it was in the car business for a long time. Like, it's part of the reason that people are the way they are now in the car business. 2 years ago, it was like on fire, and everybody at any dealership was making 10 grand or more on the sales floor. And then car prices plummeted, and now, like, those guys are making 3 grand. If they would have had the wisdom to realize, hey, this is a really good market, let me get it, let me get skilled, so when it drops, I can still make 150, 200, 300 grand, they'd be a lot better off. It's a lot better to be prepared than have to get prepared.
Another factor as well, in terms of, like, you're talking about sales ability, if we're going on the question of why solar seems to be so up and down right now, the US solar market is very immature compared to many other global markets, and it's catching up on multiple different metrics. But one metric is not specifically competition, but more so we're moving out of the cowboy season, in which it's not good enough anymore to just go to a customer and say, your power bill is $300, I can get it down to $250. That used to be sales, just purely numbers. So now we have to actually look at solar for what it really is. We have to sell things that maybe are more foreign to us, like the independence, the freedom for customers. We actually have to sell properly. And that is a big challenge, because you guys alluded to it earlier. Like, the American sales culture in terms of ability is just going down. Like, no one is willing to put the work in. No one's willing to grind it out. And to learn that proper sales ability, to build rapport, to have confidence, whether you're selling virtual in person, is difficult. So we're moving away from that phase of, I don't have to know what to say or anything. It's just I'll show a lower number and I get a deal, to, okay, now I actually have to connect with my customer and convey trust and build rapport. That's a totally different ballgame. Right?
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. I was wondering that for a while. I was like seeing solar, like people selling solar, and I was like, wait a minute. So you're going up people's doors, you're going to lower their utility bill, they're going to put zero money down, and I don't know if that's closing, or is that just like informing people? You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's like, I don't know why they would say no to that anyway,
Yeah, I mean, let's not kid ourselves and say that it's you just do that all day long. But certainly,
Right, right.
if if we're in like a cowboy season of an industry and people can say whatever they want, and in the earlier days in the U.S., even a year or two ago, you didn't. There was no regulations. No one was getting in trouble for saying the wrong things or promising the wrong things as well. So you also factor in the cowboys that just don't give a shit about their customers, can say whatever they need to, and then you end up with lower skilled sales guys being able to make a ridiculous amount of money, and that's never a good scenario. Now, where solar is headed for people like me, I love it because I will actually sell 99.9% of people in this industry. So I love it because my competition is getting smoked across the board, right? But
I
for
love
those
that.
that are just in, they make a few $100,000 in their first year because they were showing a lower number to a customer. Like they're in for trouble if they think they can keep going on.
I love that, dude.
Well, speaking of sales skills, we got a couple of the top sales trainers around. Can I put you guys on the spot? Can we do a little segment? Give a little couple of sales tips to the audience.
Let's roll. What you
Let's
guys
get it.
got? Let's do it.
So for me, I'm a big fan of helping newer people who are just getting their feet wet, or maybe not even thinking they're a salesperson, because I never knew I was a salesperson until I started selling, because you just think, oh, I'm not a salesperson. So like just some tips where maybe some people who are just new to sales, what would you say is a good way to get them started with confidence and like, I chose the right field. This makes sense for me. And
I'll go
either of
first.
you guys, whatever you guys want to go.
Yeah, so I always recommend these three things. So it comes down for me, right? If you're new coming in, and number one, you said like I don't know if sales is for me. Like I would tell you, sales is for everybody. If you want to learn or ever start a business or do anything big, you have to learn sales. You have to learn marketing. You have to learn sales. I just believe that everybody needs to learn it at some point, whether you stay in sales forever or you start your own business or do something. I just think it's one of the most valuable skill sets that you can have. But I always teach these three things: activity, attitude, and skill set. You have to make sure that you have the right attitude every single day that you're going in to either hit the doors, hit the phones, have conversations. You have to have the right activity level, meaning like you can't be lazy. You have to make sure that you're putting in the right amount of calls, the right amount of effort. And then the last thing is your skill set. How are you communicating? What is your confidence like? Are you practicing your script and your top 5 objections? Do you have these things mastered? Can you navigate conversations through objections and do all that? So activity, attitude, skill set. I think if you focus on those 3 things as a new guy going into sales, that you'll be able to identify all your problems. Because let's say I go to bed at night and I didn't have a good day in sales, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know this is for me. Let's look at how our day went. Did I have the right amount of activity? Oh, I did 100 phone calls. Did I had a good day on my activity? All right. My attitude. Did I have a good attitude at work? I was trying. I was doing as best I could. I was, in the zone mentally. I think I was good there. All right. Skill set. Where did I get caught up? Can I overcome all the objections? No. All right. That's where I need to focus at, is my skill set. A lot of times, like if you've been in sales for a long time, let's say you've been in for 5 or 10 years, you might already have the objections mastered. You have a couple different scenarios, how to handle them. You know how to deal with customers. Then it's like, dude, how was your attitude? Like, are you coming in with the wrong attitude of what am I going to take? Or what am I going to give? Like, because all of a sudden that could be messing you up. So activity, attitude, skill set. I think if you could look at those 3 simple areas as a new guy, you can always critique yourself and figure out where are you messing up. I had this new guy that's in our office. He keeps coming up to me and he's like, what do I do? I had this guy, he did this. And I said, dude, listen. I said, all you need right now is more activity. For every time you come to me to critique you, that's one less phone call that you could be making to learn what you're doing, instead of phone call, critique, phone call, critique. I would say, dude, like his skill set is halfway there. And so that's something you have to chip away at your skill set over due time. But I told him, bro, just increase your activity right now, because you got the basics down at like a bare minimum, and now it's just go time, and you just gotta throw yourself in the fire. Most new salespeople, they don't want to be refined by the fire. There comes a point, like one thing I hate is, people are like, oh, I want to do more training and do more training. I get that, like we're a training company, but I'm like, bro, there's nothing else for you to train on. You're not picking up the phone. You're not doing the actual work required. I see so many people that are practicing more scripts or trying to figure out new strategies. It's like there isn't a magic strategy or script for everything. Like, we've already covered the basics. So as soon as you have that 90% down, now it's just time to do the work in and stop tricking yourself that I need more training. I get that. I'm going to train until I die. I'm going to self-develop. I'm going to listen to more podcasts. I'm going to study on my craft. But like, for what I'm trying to do and what I'm trying to accomplish is make money and get deals down the pipeline on a day-by-day basis. The only way by doing that is just to work. So I would tell you, refine your skill sets, look at those 3 things, and realize that once you're done with all that's left is doing the shit that you don't want to do, which is the work.
Yeah, I would say there's 3 things that I focus on. That anytime I sit down with a new salesperson, we audit these things. Number 1 would be like the sales process. Define clearly what your sales process is. Like I always say, like, learn how to run the play. When you sign up on a sports team, the first thing they do is give you a playbook. But for some reason in sales, they don't give you like a map. Like, hey, here's what a perfect sale looks like. If you can emulate this and take everybody down this path, you'll score every single time. So like, whether it's you're just a setter and it's just on the door, just know in your mind, like, what's the framework? Is it a 3-step process? Is it 4 steps? Is it 10? And then know how to transition to each step. Secondly would be learn your top 5 to 10 objections, because it's typically only going to be 5, maybe 10. But if you know that you're going to get slapped in the face with those every day, it would make no sense to show up unprepared, not having a counter move ready to go, at least something to come off the top with. And then lastly would be knowing what activity levels you want to commit to. Because like Andy always says, you got to plan your dive and then dive your plan. Like he talks about how Chad Wright was in the Navy, and they'd go dive and they had a plan, but as soon as people started to lose air, they'd swim right back up or they'd abandon the plan. It's like people go, hey, I'm going to make 50 phone calls today. And then phone call number 20, they get hung up on again. And they're like, all right, I'm done for the day. It's like you got to commit to what activity level is going to give you the success that you want. And then you make sure you hit it every single day. Most people fall short right there. You know what I mean? Like most people don't ever go 2 weeks knocking, however many doors they set out to knock every single day,
The last thing I'll leave off on with this is really short is master each level in the game that you're at. You said new guy. The first thing I always see for new people that come in, they want to go and learn from the top guy, or people will come learn from me and they want to start making social media content.
Slow down.
Yeah, they want to start jumping on podcasts and shit. And it's like, oh, I want to go on marketing. I want to do this. It's like, listen, why don't you just become the best setter? Because once you're the best setter, I call this the game. It's my theory on the game. I think the game will grant you access to level 2, which is becoming a closer. But until you become the best setter, you don't get access to that. And most people try to find ways and do the little runaround to get to this next level, and so on and so on. Leadership is one of the biggest things that I see is people want to build a team and recruit, but they haven't become the best closer and they haven't become the best trainer inside their company to be a leader that's going to attract people in the outside real world. And this is where people, you see, they can't really build teams and retain teams. It's because they're not the person they needed to be. This is where I think the game really checks a lot of people, is at this leadership category, because that's a real test of the game. If you're ready, the people will stay with you when all other factors say that we should leave. There's more money here. There's this factor here. There's all these things going on. If you're the right leader and you got the right culture, the game will recognize you and your team will stay.
That's some beautiful advice. I hope everybody got that and took notes. Speaking of culture, I think that is huge for the Elliott Group and what you guys bring, like the energy and the team building and the camaraderie you guys have. You guys brought like 100 people to door-to-door con. Like when you come, you're bringing the people. It's like, so the culture you guys are building is, top notch. Is that just from, obviously not just from, but like, can you speak to it? Is like, how much is Andy Elliot? Like, is he the reason why you guys have such amazing culture, or is it just you got the right guys that's on the team too? Can you just talk about how you guys build culture and how do you keep it and how you keep building it higher?
I'd say it's a couple of things, man. This is a beautiful question, by the way. So, number one, I would say, dude, Andy's that guy. He is that guy. I don't know how to describe it, but when I left my job, making 6 figures, and I thought I was crushing it and everything was amazing, I gave that up to come and sell car sales training courses, $299 courses and event tickets, and I had no idea what I was going to make. Father just died. Nothing was logical about making the move in the transition. I just knew he was going to do big things. He was going to push me to become somebody better. So number one, I think Andy's always been an example, and he's done great. I've seen this guy for the last 4 years, and I just love that he is exactly who he says he is, and he does exactly what he says he's going to do. And coming from a person who has a team and is a leader himself, it's fucking difficult. And I just respect it, because it's crazy to see this guy show up time and time again, year after year. Secondly, I think a lot of us within the Elliott group have been through some stuff. How we generally bring in talent in our coaches is a little bit different. We only take people that have either been through the program, been through the events, and like really want to do it. A big red flag for someone when they come and they want to like work for us, and then we take them on, and their first question is, how much am I going to make? What's the pay plan? And they get into all that. You see guys driving sick cars, like, that it's possible. And so it's almost an irrelevant question. It's a selfish intention question. So I'd say a lot of our guys were underdogs and have really come from nothing, so that's a big piece of the culture. And then we've all just really binded together for one big movement. I think that Andy's given the team a lot of power, and he's given the team a lot of freedom to go and do stuff. Like Joe, you mentioned, I have my own brand as well, and you see me doing things, and that gives more power to the team and to the culture. And it says a lot about Andy's trust as a leader to say, hey, I'm going to put my guy on game. I'm going to let him do whatever, and I'm going to support him in that venture. So there's a couple different things, man.
Yeah.
We've all been through a craziness. We've kind of all built this together because, essentially, a lot of our team, we're all sales, right? And even Andy's selling every single day. But one thing I'll say is the most important thing in business is making sure that you make money, right? And so we've all had a big piece in building it.
Yeah, for sure. I would say, on top of what Danny said, Andy has always said from day one, everybody he hires, he said, I'm not hiring you because of your talent or your skill set. I'm hiring you because of your heart. You got to bring in people with the right heart. Like he said, if you ask, what am I going to get paid as your first question, that's a big red flag. And Andy told me when he hired me, he said, dude, if you look at this as a sacrifice, I know you're making a couple $100,000 a year, but if you look at this as a sacrifice, then I don't want you, because I want you to, you shouldn't view this as a sacrifice. But the other thing I'd say is the leader of whatever company it is has to have the abundance mindset. That's the thing with Andy is he trusts us and he has the abundance mindset. He allows us to go as big as we want to go, and he doesn't limit us in any way.
And there's full freedom. If Brendan wants to go see his family for a week, or he wants to go and start a podcast, there's nothing that he really says no to. If Brendan wants to partner with somebody, he's recently talked about doing this guy that helps generate leads, and he's going to train his team, and now he's going to get involved with him. He's brought things to the table, and he's going to support that. So I think just the freedom and the backing from him has been awesome, because there's no cap, I think, for everybody in the Elliott group. You see the coaches, and I think a lot of the outside people are trying to understand what we do, but there's truly no cap to what's possible. And so everybody's 1099. It's not like anybody's hey, you have to be here for this meeting or you're fired. It's everybody wants to be there and respects each other. We all help each other grow and kick ass.
Yeah, because there's always pros and cons to anything, right? So you would just think, there is some overshadowing maybe, and now kind of Andy Elliot is such this big public figure, and he's blown up such to a large extent. I'm always going to be Andy Elliott's guy, or I'm now, I'm Danny Klein's guy. Is that a worry, or is that just something I'm overthinking it?
No, that is a great question, man. I remember one time we were in Mexico and on vacation, and I was sitting with Andy, and I'm like, dude, I think for the last couple of years, I've just pondered this question, how big do I want to go? And I've just watched this guy keep increasing. And it's well, would you rather be second in command to a guy that's Steve Jobs or doing something massive? Or would you rather be, it's you can have a pizza, you can have the small pizza, by yourself, right? Or you can have the giant extra large and you can have a whole slice. And it's how big of the pie do you want? You can have your own little piece of the pie, or you can have a gigantic slice of a bigger pizza. And, for me, it's bigger than just me. I think a lot of people, they'll go out and do things because they want to make it about them. Uh-huh. And for me, I truly believe that this guy is leading the way. And, truly, man, he's still my mentor. So I'm still learning from him. And unless that, I get to pass this guy, then I still a student, bro.
Yeah, I second that. Like going back to the entrepreneur thing, I have no problem with being an entrepreneur. And I think a lot of people like it's good to want to go out and start your own business. We all probably would have started our own training company at some point if we hadn't found Andy, because we were dying to express ourselves the way that he does. But fortunately, this gave us an opportunity early on in our lives to where we could be on the mission that we want to be on, serve the kind of people we want to help, and do something that's actually really impactful,
Andy has said, enough on this, Andy has said that as a leader, he wants his people to pass him and to like outgrow him. And I didn't really understand that for a while until like we started having these opportunities. Like May 1st, I'm speaking at this event that Andy spoke on last year with Ed Milet and Ryan Stuman, and this year it's
Congratulations,
Rocket
man.
X. And now I'm speaking. I'm going on main stage, and it's like he's like, dude, I'm so fucking proud of you. And for him to not have a single ounce of like, oh shit, like he's going big. It's like it's just really cool to see,
Yo, I want to get you on stage at SolarCon, Mr. Danny Klein. So I'm gonna message you and make sure you get on stage there. Okay.
I would love that, dude. That mean the world to me, bro.
Hell yeah. And I appreciate the Elliott group, Andy Elliot being at SolarCon. He's speaking, the first speaker on day 1. So he's going to bring the fire. Elliott group always brings the fire, the energy. It was amazing last year, throwing people in the air, the Solar Objections champion and all the people on the main stage. Like you guys really, it was amazing. I'm so glad you guys come back this year.
Yeah, no, I'm super pumped, dude. Like I love the warm welcome from everybody, from the entire industry for us coming in. A lot of times the new kids on the block, they're like, yo, like who are these guys? And it's cool to have the love and the support from you guys because, wherever we go, if we don't have the support from people, then, we're not welcome, then we can't thrive. And so, we try to pay our dues and, we just want to add value and show love. And I think it's cool, dude, what you guys have built. You guys have built a massive freaking conference and have done a great job bringing the community together. And I'm all about it, man. I'm all about just peace, love, and, positivity, bro.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I only got one more question for you, but I'm going to let Josh go because I've been taking all the questions. Go ahead, Josh.
I'm good. I mean, I've been piling up a bunch of questions, but where do we leave off? Events. So, I mean, well, we got SolarCon coming up. Do you guys find that you're talking about events? You guys do a lot of speaking, right? Do you find that? Where am I going with this? I love getting up on stage and I love practicing and training to an audience. Actually, virtually as well. Do you find that doing those events, whether you're training in person or virtually, also affect your sales ability? I certainly find that repeating the same things over and over again, the concepts, the scripts, also help my sales and also clarify the sales internally for me. You found that as well?
Yeah, I agree. I think like Andy said this a long time ago. The reason he got so skilled as he is because he's gotten the reps in. Every day for the past 4 years, for 8 hours a day, he's blowing his voice out. So every time he teaches it, and he even says this to me the other day. It's like, dude, as much as I help the people that are in the audience when they're at a seminar, it helps me a lot. It helps me more than you could ever imagine. Because every time I repeat something, I'm just burning it in my brain. And I found the same thing, dude. Like speaking, anytime I get an opportunity to put myself under pressure, I never say no, because I always come away. I always get better. And every time I teach a concept, I can teach it more smoothly, and it just sears it into my brain even more.
I 100% agree. Like, for me, when I first, started, and it's not that I've been on like 50 stages or whatever, but I've done like a lot of trainings and now like starting to get on, quote unquote, like stages. But for me, it's like the same thing. You're just talking to people. And I used to always get like, all nervous and tripped out. What am I going to say? And so I realized that like, you just got to go out, and there's no perfect way to speak or to present. You're trying to figure out what's the slides? What do I say? And when I found that I just went out there and I speak from my heart, not only do I get better, I talked about being like refined by the fire. And so you go up there, those pressure zones are where I thrive. It's funny. I almost feel like I sell and speak more fluently when it's like kind of like the boiler room effect. I feel like it comes out to my highest potential, and I get to really see the version of myself in front of everybody that like I'm wanting to be. So I start to see glimpses of that, because when you're with 10 people, you don't get to go and put on the show, or 30 people, you kind of get a little bit. Once you get in front of 100 people, 200, even more, it's like you get to now step into this role where you get to put on your 100% best self, and it's cool to step into that and to test yourself and to kind of see where you're truly at. For me, it's like stepping onto that mat one-on-one. You got a few minutes, spotlights on you. How you perform is how you perform, and you just got to go out and play your game. So, I love doing it. For me, as a student, I always learn so much. So I just try to pour in and just be as authentic as possible, but also teach some really, like, for me, my brand is very like tactical, step by step. So I try to go in and really teach some very tactical things as well. But yeah, no, I think it's. Did you ask if it increases your sales, if it brings in more sales as well, or if it like takes away from that?
I know brings in. So, for example, like my sales strategy and philosophy has changed over the decades, right? But the number one thing that's helped me really fine tune my own belief in what a script should look like in process is, yeah, it's selling, but man, when you're speaking to 10, 20, 50, 100 people on a consistent basis, training that concept and saying it out loud, your brain really has to think, does this actually make sense? Or is it just bullshit that I've been saying? I've caught myself over the years, and now my sales process with customers is more refined because I've trained that sales process to sales guys so many times.
100%.
Speaking
Love
of
it.
like
100%.
on stages is cool, right? You get hundreds, maybe thousands of views, but social media, every single post is hundreds of views, thousands of views, or hundreds of thousands of views. And I seen Danny, bro, like you're really pushing it, and you're really getting a lot of content out there, and some great content. And now people are like, who's this Danny Klein guy? I don't know if you've seen that, right? Like, Danny Klein, I hear this, the people just posting about you, like, hey, this Danny Klein. Like, so you're getting your name out, but like, what are you doing? What's some of your tricks to the trade? Maybe let people know, like, hey, if you take a Sunday and you just make a bunch of content, it's easy. Or you get somebody, you hire somebody and they're like from the Philippines. Like, what are some of your secrets or things you're able to do to make so much content lately?
Yeah, so I'm actually kind of like lucky because I get to like double dip. And so a lot of times when I'm trying to figure out like what to record content, a lot of people like script out their content or try to figure out what, but oftentimes I'll have like training slides or different things that I'll put together on different material. And I get to just take that down and make that into little micro pieces. And oftentimes it's not all perfectly scripted out. It's not always the most hyper valuable stuff. Everybody has a different strategy. So I try to give out tips of value, but I also want to show like an authentic side to myself. I think one video that did the best recently for me is as I was messing with one of the twins, and I like pulled his new shoes that he had out of his car, and we were just having a conversation. It was just a clip of what really goes on in an actual conversation. And so as much as people, I want you to prepare your content and really put out some very intentional stuff, but don't ever get too like intentional, meaning like you're only doing scripted straight stuff. You want to show your authentic self, because the thing in trust, or the thing in sales, what actually gets people to buy is trust. And so same thing online, you're trying to get trust from your audience. The only way you do that is through connection and through authenticity. And so I just try to be my most authentic self. I also try to give value. A good editor will help you make it a little more flashy and a good like little hook, which is cool. But I would tell most people, man, like if you could just be consistent and you can actually become the content, meaning the stuff that you say, your personality. Are you funny? Are you direct? Are you aggressive? Is it six pack or fired? Like what is your way of putting out content? What is your personality? And then once you have really strong identity with who you are, put that out as much as to the online world as possible. Show people your world, show people your life. Stop trying to only show one side of your life. Show your cars, show your family, show your girl, show your team, show everything. If you're hiding one side of you, you can't tap into as deep as a connection of a person as you would think. You think that people are engaging, but oftentimes, like if you reflect back for both of you, if you go back on both your pages or anybody that's watching this, go try to find your most engaged post or your most engaged video. Oftentimes, it's something that was a little bit more vulnerable. It was a family picture. It was something deep. It was a story. It was something that was not surface level, that was just a tip or a trick. Although when you're posting out a lot, it gets a little numbing, and you got to just keep posting, so you never know what's going to hit. But those are that would say just a couple tips and tricks for everybody. Stay consistent. Once you start making enough money and you want to build a brand, I would say delegate it as soon as you possibly can. Have somebody help you with it. You should not be editing videos if you're making 6 figures, in my opinion. If you're making $100,000 and you're still making your own content and it's consuming a large portion of your day, I would say delegate it immediately. Hire somebody to help make you content and help you post it out. Because your main goal in all this is business and making money and building deals, building relationships. So yeah,
what
stay
social
consistent,
media
keep
are
it
you
fun.
using right now? What are you using? What are you on right now? Which one?
Say that one more time.
Instagram, YouTube? What social medias are you primarily on right now?
Yeah, so my main platforms that I push right now is Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Any reason why you're not
A lot
using
of people
TikTok?
Let's get that TikTok going,
is
son.
cool. I personally believe, and maybe this is a leash or a story that I put on myself, but I personally believe like my ideal client, the person that I'm trying to find, isn't on TikTok, and that's probably a bullshit story that I'm telling myself.
Oh,
But the
yo,
content that I
way
would
bullshit. Way bullshit. Your audience is definitely on TikTok, bro. They're actually screaming for you.
100%.
Where's Danny Klein?
100%,
No, you're right.
dude.
But what I would tell you is TikTok is good. I think I just need to, the content that I need to put on TikTok is different than all the other platforms. And so maybe that's a bullshit story of like, I haven't set aside the time to make different content. Because I post on TikTok, but I gotta make it a little bit more authentic, a little bit more organic. I gotta put a little more time into it. And so it's been this balance of making content, but also still managing the business. And so for me, I put TikTok on the back burner because Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube has done me well. But TikTok is coming. I've been bullshitting a little bit. TikTok.
Let me challenge you. So how old are you again? Sorry.
25.
I'm 25.
Okay, so you're from the generation that is you're or like barely a millennial, but TikTok wasn't around when you were a kid. So in your teens, you're on Instagram, and TikTok came out a few years ago, and the first people that you saw on TikTok was girls dancing, and you thought it was lame. And that's where that idea came from. I fucking guarantee you, dude, I speak to so many people like this, and I had to overcome it as well. The issue is that's how the app started, but now everybody is on TikTok. And what I'm seeing is a lot of people have difficulty overcoming the idea that, TikTok, no, I'm not a TikToker, dude. That's lame. Because you got used to the idea of Instagram because Instagram was cool when you were growing up, but TikTok was not cool at all when you were older. There's so many people that have that misconception. And of course, the kids start the app, but now everybody, dude, homeowners are on, solar customers are on TikTok right now, Like there's it's if you crack that code and are able to overcome that and start putting the type of content that I'm seeing on your YouTube and Instagram, and TikTok likes long form content now. So if you just re-upload your fucking YouTube videos to TikTok, I promise you're going to get traction. Keep going.
See, I've been posting out. So what I need to do, it's cool because I'm watching some of the guys and like some of the other people make it. The content that I put on Instagram and YouTube, it hasn't been catching as much as it has on these other platforms. And I know the code. I need to make it a little bit more authentic, a little bit more like people like the live stuff. They like the live speaking. They like the live role playing stuff like that's very controversial. And so I just need to dip into it. You're right. I think my brain has been thinking like, hey, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, I convert so much leads, and the way the messaging is very comfortable and easy. And so I think that, it's a great point.
Comfortable. We don't like the word comfortable around here. Get that fucking. We're not here for comfort, son. Let's keep going. Let's go.
I like that. Go. That's good. I like the accountability. Y'all gonna see me blow up on TikTok.
Good shit.
I could definitely count on that. We got Danny Klein here and Brendan Whiting with the Elliott Group. And before you guys go, I want to give you an opportunity to let people know how to reach out to you. What's the best way to maybe join the Elliott Group? I don't know if you guys want to both have individual ways, but Danny, what do you think was the best way to reach out to you and get to know you better?
Yeah. So anybody that's watching this and wants to connect in with me personally, you can follow me on Instagram at official Danny Klein, DANNYKLEIN, official Danny Klein on Instagram. You can shoot me a DM if you're serious, if you want to kill it, if you really want to come out here to an event. You guys can shoot me a text, 540-840-3241. Ask me any question. I got you. And then, yeah, that's me.
Hell yeah. Shoot me a text, 618-305-4070. Let's get it.
There you go. So one last question before we let you guys go, if that's okay.
Love it, dude. Let's
so speaking of just people reaching out to you and you're, guys are experts at recruiting, just like how can, maybe it's a tip, but how do people really separate themselves recruiting? Why should people choose them? Like, how do they really make it where they have a different reason why people want to join, not just they have nothing maybe for you guys. What do you think specifically? What does it take to be a recruiting monster like you guys are doing? I don't know the best way to ask that is.
So it's a couple things. So I would say we talked about brand. So I want to mention brand. Like you need to have you do need to have a presence. You can't. I mean, in this day and age, like you need to make sure that you have content that people can see who you are. Because when you have, if you're shooting for hundreds of people, not just 10 or 20, they're not going to be around you all the time. They're going to be out the doors, different states and stuff like that. And so I would tell you having a good brand for yourself so people can look up to you as a leader. And even before that, I would tell you that you have to become the person first, right? There's no secret code. You have to make sure that you're living by example, that these people still look up to you, that you are the top closer, that people do listen to you, that they do want to hear you. The second thing I would tell you, or third, probably the most important, is the culture. When there's better pay, when there's things going south, when there's an argument with your employee, there's an argument with the owner, when there's everything going on, the culture is the glue that holds the company together. And so it's the more that you can hold on the culture, because there's going to be different pay plans. There's going to be a million different things going on, different states, markets up and down. And so I say if you can really build a culture where everybody becomes tight and you're very authentic with everybody, very direct and very loving type of way, not from a, hey, this is a job, but this is business, this is family, I got you. You go and be above and beyond past just a job with these people and you really take care of them. You're going to notice you're going to start to build a culture when somebody offers your guy, dude, I've gotten job offers from people that are the most respected, from somebody that is the most respected person in the self-development space of the last 30 years. And I've said, I love you, I respect you, I listen to your content, but I'm here because there's culture. There's something deeper than pay. And so the only way you can do that is from culture, developing some loyalty within your people by person. There's a guy, I won't mention his name, the last thing I'll end off with. He's a leader of a team in a division with like 300 or 400 people. Really good dude in this space, just very respectable. And I asked him, like, how's his day going? I tried to call him one time. He sent me a screenshot. He's not in office all the time because he runs a team. And he was making 5-10 minute phone calls to every single person, setters, new people. And every day he's making rounds of calls to make sure that he stays in touch with his people. And that is his new work. And I was like, dude, this guy's killing it. He doesn't need to do that. But because he doesn't need to do that, that's what makes it special. And that's what keeps people close. Because when somebody says, hey, bro, I got this thing going on with my family. My girl's going here. She wants me to move. I really need the money. I'm going to go over here. That phone call is going to save that person because they're going to call you and say, hey, listen, I'm having problems with my girl. This guy offered me this. Well, I got a question, man. I really think I should take it. I need to talk to you about this. The trust you have with the people is what's going to really help you build that culture so they stay. It's the details and the actual care factor. Because people think everybody, enough on this, I won't ramble on for 10 minutes. People think that everything is about the money. What's the money? People train their people for money. We pay the best. We're the best paid in the industry. And I hear this said all the time. But oftentimes, if you could just have an amazing place to work and the culture and the environment, the people you were around, everybody would make less to be around and live a good life. So people make this, they put money on a pedestal when it's the environment and the culture and all the other things that are actually more important. So I would tell you, stop training your people about money and how you're the best paid and you pay the most, because it's not about that. People don't live, they went from making no money to making hundreds of thousands just because this guy has a little bit better comp plan or something happens here. That's not why they're leaving you. It's because they're chasing a place that they can build a career.
Beautifully said. I think that's a great way to end it. Josh, do you have anything else you want to add or say?
Stuff. Thanks for coming on, boys. Good to meet you.
That was Danny Klein
amazing.
and Brendan Whiting. That was Danny Klein and Brendan Whiting with the Elliott Army, baby. Let's go. This has been a Solar Pulse podcast with Josh and Joe. We are out. Let's go. Peace.
See you guys.
Love you guys. See ya.
Peace.
Later.
Appreciate you guys.